time to start a conversation. Would love if you start participating maybe after 5-7 minutes of our discussion. So, let me quickly introduce myself. This fireside chat will try and decipher strategies that brands, the modern day brands like Noise, are adopting to reach consumers that are becoming elusive by the day. So my name is Rajiv Dhal. I am the CRO of Lemma Technologies. Let me very quickly introduce Lemma to you. Lemma is pioneering innovation in ad tech across multiple emerging formats like connected TV, digital out of home, audio, retail audio, and many others. We operate in multiple countries from United States to Australia, and we've got deep presence in the India market as well. Now, today's discussion is about how to go behind the elusive consumers who's extremely well connected, multiple devices, yet very, very difficult to reach. So that's the topic of discussion today. I am joined by Utsav, and I am very excited and thrilled to have you on board, Utsav. You guys, Noise doesn't need an introduction. You are making a lot of noise in the market. You're doing very well. You are the fastest growing wearable brand in India and beyond. So I'm not too sure if it's worldwide the largest already. And good to have you on board today. Let me set the context to straight away jump in. So today's consumer that we often call as digital nomad is toggling between devices throughout the day. Look at your own behavior. You jump from one to another through the day. Now, typically the demographics of this consumer are younger, so they're a younger lot. They belong to niche communities, and very often they are privacy conscious. Now this animal, sorry to say, is very difficult to reach. Very well connected, very difficult to reach. So how exactly are you going behind targeting such consumers that have 7 devices in their control, yet don't want to be reached by anyone? Over to you.
So thank you, Rajiv. I think by sheer excitement, at least the two of us are. I can't say about the other side of this room, but yes, you're absolutely right. This is probably the biggest paradox that you are dealing with, right? These are, let's talk about the 10-kilometer radius from where we are sitting today. It's probably the most expensive real estate in all of North India. It is the most affluent consumer that every brand typically wants to target and reach out. And also is the consumer that is probably as difficult to reach and media dark, right? Because people are not using conventional channels anymore. They're on multiple devices. People are using phones, tablets, even wearables, but not willing to be reached, right? The interesting part here is two-pronged. One, we are a digital-first business, and this is a consumer that is digitally a lot more active. Two, I think it's easier to reach a consumer like this when you're dealing with first-party data. Because fundamentally for a digital brand, you want to get to those 6, 7, 8 touch points for you to start getting some sort of conversion, for them to flow through the funnel effectively. The conundrum therefore is, how are you going to do it? So there are a few plays sort of that end up coming about. You have to have omni-channel presence. You have to be present on all these platforms that you find these digital nomads sifting through, because they're not consistent, they have short-lived memory, they have short attention span, and therefore you have to continue to bombard them with the brand across multiple touch points with consistent messaging. What we've managed to do is kind of target them. We are a very hyper-targeted sort of a brand, over-indexed towards performance spends, and it allows us to do that better, but more importantly, fundamentally build the core of data. Because unless you build that layer, you will struggle. And as the laws become tighter, as navigating the data privacy regulations becomes more difficult, it's going to be a struggle. So, for every commoditized brand, and I'll give you some examples, right? We started out by doing audio devices. And when you're doing audio devices, you soon realize it can get commoditized, right? It borders on being commoditized. Think about automobile brands. Think about large appliances. They're as commoditized as they come. So we took a conscious hard pivot to saying that we will deal with wearables as our focus, build enough and more layers, so to say, safeguarding ourselves, barriers to entry, so to say, but we will start recording consumer data. So every single device that the consumer today buys gets activated on my app. On my app, I get 1 million odd daily active users today who are leaving a very rich data print. So we are very unique that way, where we are being able to build, cultivate, and nurture that sort of first-party data. We are present across multiple touch points, and short format, reels, YouTube, video, digital targeting in terms of Facebook, but also mainstream, OTT. This is a consumer that is picking up snackable content. So as a brand, if you're not making that snackable content, chances are they'll glide over. Third bit, very, very important, personalization, right? You have to speak to this consumer in a language, in a setting, in a context that they understand. And that starts on the layer, on the basis of this data. And that's really helped us.
Fantastic. So, this is so exciting. You are talking about a brand that's been built now, 10 years, 15 years back. Do we have anyone who belongs to companies that are brands or managing brands on either side that have been in existence for more than 100 years, the CPG, FMCG, automobile? Okay. Oh, fantastic. So now let's look at the conundrum that you talked about. Let's just zoom in a little more and actually bifurcate into two type of categories of brands. So personalization is under scrutiny across the world. GDPR plus is what is going to be rolled out in India. We don't have a date, but it should be soon. None of the brands so far that are traditional in their background have built scalable or scaled first-party data. Now, you are an exception because your brand itself was born maybe a decade back or something like that. Let's just split into two parts and let's talk about, look at a brand, personalization I want to offer, but it's under scrutiny, I need to be conscious. First-party data is either very expensive or I don't have at scale. AI or AR, VR technology is very exciting, but not at scale. You can't reach enough people and you can't deliver all the messages. Now, even new age media, we have invested heavily. We have put all into digital out of home and connected TV. Why? Because we believe context is the new way of targeting, old way coming back. Now, let's just split the discussion in two parts. If you wear your hat, which was as a marketeer but not for noise, how do you go behind this scenario? How do you reach people?
So I think, Rajiv, very interesting. And in my previous life, I've had those sort of challenges, right? Where I've dealt with products that needed to cut across and they were ATL, so to say, heavy. There are nuance changes, and I think you rightly put it. There is contextual change that has come about. You realize that no longer is this consumer, because the consumer is also metamorphosed, right? I think what's important is to understand that whilst ways of communicating have changed, it's also the consumer that's fundamentally changed and how they're consuming brand, right? So television was a great medium, content was king, but now context is king, right? You articulated it brilliantly. And the moment you put that in context, you realize that you have to do full funnel. You have to get to the consumer in moments where you are able to connect. Therefore, influencers become important, right? Influencers were not a huge deal till some time back because they build relatability, they build that bridge in terms of getting the brand message across. Two, I think whilst you can't personalize, but I think in the context of what that consumer wants, today you talk about connected TV. The brilliance of connected TV and attribution is grey. I mean, attribution is grey when it comes to even Facebook and Google. But when you talk about connected TV, the real merit lies in the ability for you to be able to sift through those filters. So I think back in the day, you wouldn't have done it, and the spillovers kind of helped. But today, the noise, so to say, or the brand clutter has also increased, and hence the reason to be able to cut through that makes it difficult for you to hyper-target. I mean, if I go back 10, 15 years, I'll realize that there were probably about 5 brands in a segment that dominated. Segmentation had played out, and it was easier for me to, with my messaging and content alone, get to the consumer and build that emotional connect. Today, there is so much, and so much of Me Too that's happening, that you need to be able to stand out, and that is where the media dark consumer, or so to say a digital nomad, becomes that much more difficult to reach. Therefore, you have to gamify. Therefore, you have to do stuff like short quizzes, stuff that keeps them engaged, whether it's influencers, whether it's doing short format. It's about building engagement with the consumer, because if you're not building engagement, you will die. So what we fixed is to invest heavily in building communities. And communities today are solving for the problem that back in the day were those social groups that physically existed.
Oh, very, very exciting. So I think everybody would have picked a lot of lessons today on building communities, going full funnel. Now, I mean, we have to talk about future as well. So very quickly, we've got a few minutes left. AI is going to impact everybody sitting in the hall and all the brands. So look at the scenario. AI will allow personalization and targeting in a fantastic manner. It will be as precise as targeting this gentleman right there. That's one part of the story. And
that was targeting.
Yeah, so that's one way of looking at this is how future is moving. And on the other hand, with privacy concerns and with first party data, etc., not shaping up at a scale, there will be a scenario wherein context is again becoming relevant. And you know what we position in the market, we say location is the new context. Now you can, and people have been targeting south part of Delhi for ages because location was the context. We are bringing it back after 25 years of doing everything. We are going back to saying location is the new context. So look at, AI is going to define and sharpen tools. Location becomes context, which is very age-old way of looking at this scenario. Media dark pocket has moved away from Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, to media dark pocket is sitting in Gurgaon. It's in the upmarket clusters of Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad. Now, what's your future take? How do you see 10 years down the line? How do you see noise strategy, say, 2035?
See, Rajiv, I don't have the clairvoyance, but I can tell you that AI is inadvertent, right? What AI is solving for today is to be able to deal with data packets at scale. A lot of brands today struggle with not having enough scalable data points. And the moment the brand starts building those, and if you want to personalize and if you want to extrapolate those data for insights, then you will need AI for personalization. So that is an absolute reality that we must embrace today. In terms of data privacy and how some of those regulations play out, I think it's about awareness, it's about ethics, it's about integrity in terms of how people use it, how they get communicated, how consent is sought, etc. I think we will, as a country, mature. I don't think we've kind of gone there yet. We're still scraping the surface, but we will go there. In terms of location, in terms of this consumer hiding behind sort of paywalls and VPN networks, etc., is going to become more and more real, right? So for brands, it will be challenging times unless you're investing in first-party consumer data, unless you're investing in building direct ties and engagement with the consumer. Times ahead are going to be tough. And the brands that are doing that are going to reap the benefits of it.
Fantastic. So looks like marketing is the most exciting domain that used to be, and it's going to be extremely tech-centric in the future that we...
At least the marketers on this side of the room should gloat in the fact that that will be the case. But yeah.
Thanks a lot.